In 2025, we had NAN for connecting apps and Claude Code for actually building them. But in 2026, the gap between planning a task and actually executing it is finally closing. This is Clawdbot. It's an open source, messaging first AI agent that can live on a cloud server or on your own computer and supposedly acts as a 24/7 teammate for managing your life and your business from literally your pocket and your phone. Unlike a standard chatbot, it doesn't just wait for you to type. It has persistent memory, it can use a computer browser just like you do, and it can proactively text you other updates. In this video, I'm breaking down what Clawdbot actually is and why, despite being released less than a month ago, it's currently the most hyped tool in the agentic space. I'll give you the guide on how to skip the $600 Mac Mini and get it running on a $5 cloud server in a few minutes, along with exploring whether you should be testing this right now or just sticking to your existing tools. So in its essence, Clawdbot or Claude.bot is like giving an NAN workflow assistant access to any of your tools. So this is literally how we built NAN workflows and personal assistants in early 2025. We had these AI agents that were connected to multiple tools, but you have to individually program every single tool and also actions in those tools. So the email assistant needed access to actually get the emails, to actually read the emails, and to write emails or even write drafts. So we had to connect them to multiple tools. And that was just for Google Mail. If you wanted to connect it to Calendar, you had to do it all again, and also for any other tool. But not only that, you had to program a specific prompt inside the email assistant, the follow-up assistant, and the Slack assistant. So it was fair to say it was pretty clunky because it was only able to access things that we'd already given it access to, and we had to do that in a very manual way. But Clawdbot is also like chatting to the other Claude, but giving it access to any of your tools to actually take actions, which, by the way, Claude Code does already. So the real difference with Clawdbot is that everything you see here and everything we talked about can be activated from WhatsApp, Telegram, or any chat app you already use. So it's like having a 24/7 assistant accessible on your mobile and not just on your desktop. That is what seems to be driving all the hype for Clawdbot right now. And I guess you could say it's a picture into what might be possible in the way that we work or can work by the end of 2026 or even mid 2026 at this rate. So before we talk about setting it up on a virtual private server, a VPS, which by the way isn't particularly technical, keeps it separate from your main computer, which reduces your security risks and will only cost you around $5 to $10 a month, which is much cheaper than a separate Mac Mini for $600 that a lot of people are pushing on X. Let's just run through what people are actually using it for so you can decide whether it's even for you and whether it's worth setting up anyway. It's got access to an extended community of skills. So similar to Claude skills, these are just ways to get Clawdbot to run things more effectively. So think of these as like better prompts. So for example, if you wanted to read things from Twitter, then we've got this bird skill that we can install just by saying install the bird skill, which basically allows you to read, search, and post to your Twitter feed. But you could also generate Nano Banana Pro images from your mobile. So actually think about how many times you've been on your mobile and you wanted to generate a Nano Banana Pro image. You don't have to go to the app specifically to do that. You can just do that directly in Telegram or WhatsApp, for example. We can get it to interact with our databases like Notion, send iMessages for us, update our Apple Notes, or use things like OpenAI's Whisper API for transcribing audio, creating text-to-speech with 11 Labs, or managing anything on Trello or Slack. So there's quite a few things you can do here, but nothing that something like Claude Code can't do already for you. But the key difference is you can access it from your mobile, so it's where you are, and it actively updates you on tasks in your mobile device. Believe it or not, I actually struggle to find any decent use cases by typing in @Clawdbot on Twitter and scrolling through pages and pages of what people are using it for. It seems at the moment there's a bit of hype around this and a bit of a disconnect between what you can actually functionally use this for versus people just actually installing it on devices. So I decided to actually just go to Perplexity and ask, I guess I could have done this with Clawdbot as well, for the most common use cases of what people have actually been using it for. And we've got things that have always been around with AI personal assistants, which is like your daily personal assistant agent. You can manage your calendar, create events, all that stuff that's kind of a bit old news. You can triage your inbox. You can get morning/evening digest for weather, meetings, etc. All this stuff that actually was relatively easy to set up in an N8N workflow to start with. One thing it does a little bit different was it can help you maintain shopping lists, order groceries. It has that ability to actually interact with the browser. So it can do anything that you do on a browser. So I guess when people have got pre-programmed things it could do for us, like book flights, etc., then it might be a bit more useful there. It can be your research assistant, but again, we've already got apps like Gemini, etc., in our pockets. And it can act as your workflow and task automation. So not only can you just ask it to do single jobs, we can ask it to do routine jobs, cron jobs, and get it to do something every day for us, like manage our tasks. The majority of use cases seem to be with developers at the moment and power users, but I'll caveat that actually to use it in that way, there's more of a setup process than if you were to just do the simple tasks like managing your inbox, etc. So even at this point, I'm struggling to see what I'd actually use it for over something that I'm using for in my business like N8N. That's not to say it won't be super powerful in the future, but there's a few good articles on X that summarize exactly the thoughts around this. The first one is from Shruti here, who spent 40 hours researching Clawdbot. If you're using something already like Claude Code, this won't seem very super intelligent to you, but if you're using something just like Claude or ChatGPT, then this might feel like the next level for you. So if we were asked it to actually organize our files for us, normal AI would come back and say, here's how you would organize your files and kind of give us advice. Clawdbot or something like Claude Code would actually organize your files already while you were reading that sentence and tell you how it's organized. So it takes actions on your behalf. Or you should check these 10 sources for market news. And Clawdbot comes back, actually, I've scraped those sources. Here's the summary of them. And here's the key points for your meeting or whatever. Now, this seems to be the truth. Like everyone is losing their minds on Twitter about this. I cleared 10,000 emails from my inbox. I built my entire website via Telegram while watching Netflix. They seem like ridiculous claims. And I'm wondering how many hours people have invested into Clawdbot and actually prompting it to get it to do these things rather than the out of the box use cases. And she goes on to list some of those out of the box use cases. And I guess you can determine for yourself whether these would be useful for you. These are kind of like level one with minutes to set up with Clawdbot. Do you want them to manage your files? Do you want basic research on a certain topic, which you can do using Perplexity or Gemini anyway? Do you want it to read or send emails for you or manage your calendar? Or do you want to run a simple script every morning? But as soon as you hit that level 2 stage, which is actually where you want to do something a bit more advanced, a bit less out of the box, like automatically categorizing thousands of emails, then you are going to have to, like every other LLM or agentic tool, start prompting and give it the context to be able to perform that action. It's not going to be able to do those things out of the box. Some people are using it for things like trading or market automation. Also, people are using it for social media automation, but actually to get it to that stage, you need to actually start building with Clawdbot. So it's like any other platform where you want it to do something a bit more complex. It requires more planning and more technical know-how to get that actually to work. It goes on to list some things that you can actually do quite easily: file organization, research and summarization, schedule management. Nothing revolutionary, to be honest with you. Olivia Moore goes on to summarize this really well, and I'll leave the tweet threads in the links below. What's the killer use case? So for developers and technical power users, Clawdbot is a playground. They can imagine those use cases and actually start building them out. But for the regular consumer, the non-technical, the no-code people, AI that does stuff sounds amazing, but in practice, you actually need to know what stuff you need done. And most people don't have a list of tasks that they've been waiting to automate, or at least they're not technical enough that it's worth the effort to go through to actually automate that task. They might as well just do it. So this might be more accessible as soon as there's some sort of UI layer where it takes away from actually installing this through the VPS and on the terminal. But right now, the setup is technical. The security implications are real. People are installing this on their computing and giving it complete file access, complete message access, the ability to send and read things on your behalf. and execute code on your machine. This is dangerous if you don't know how to use it properly and how to put in those guardrails. If you're a non-technical user and you're setting this up on your PC and you don't know how to fix things in case they go wrong, then it's dangerous territory. Whereas if they turn this into a prosumer app that we could use as a SaaS and would connect to only the files that we permitted, then this would be a lot safer to use for the regular user. Now, despite that, the hype is real because actually it's the first time we've seen an intelligent AI system that you can access literally from WhatsApp, from Telegram, and from all of these different services. Pretty much every chat app, right? Discord, Slack, iMessage, etc. You can use any model and you can do so many different things if you know how, but there is that technical barrier to actually set it up. So personally, I'm going to be sticking to my N8N workflows and integrating that with Claude Code until this has some clear use cases where I'd actually step out my comfort zone and want to do things on my mobile as a fairly non-technical person here. But if you did want to set this up on a virtual private server, then you can follow the guide that I'll link down in the description. This is a guide that somebody else has made, and it's a complete walkthrough of setting this up for $5 a month on a Hetzner server and having a go for yourself at actually using Clawdbot and seeing whether that's for you. And the benefits of setting it up on a VPS server versus directly on your Mac is that we're not giving it access to anything on our Mac. We'll connect it to all the tools that we want, like our Google Calendar, etc., as we go through the setup here, rather than by default just giving it access to everything on your computer. Now, if you're looking for something that's a little bit more no-code friendly, then I'll link you to a guide on how to start building out your first N8N workflows to achieve everything you've seen today, but in a much more logical, non-technical and low-code way.